Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Whatnauts review show, our weekly book club style podcast covering all sorts of different genres and mediums. There's bound to be something for everyone, so feel free to dive in at whatever number you'd like. This week, however, we are talking about The Devil All the Time, a Netflix movie starring Tom Holland, Sebastian Stan, and Robert Pattinson. So yeah, I've heard of this one. Like I saw advertisements in this, and I was interested, but never really looked into exactly what it was. So I'm excited to get into this one. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined, as always, by Melissa Wilkinson.
Hello.
Yeah. Melissa, how has your weekend been so far?
It's been okay. It's just the eternal struggle of doing enough things so that I feel productive and not doing enough things that I don't feel exhausted.
There you go. Yeah, you have to find a right balance, right? Of just like, I can do this much and it's not too much, you know. Hard. You and I were talking about the watermelon flavor Mountain Dew, which I have right here. I bought a 6-pack of these, so I'm slowly but surely dwindling down on those ones. But I'm hoping it wakes me up a bit today. But yeah. My weekend is off to a good start. I watched Man of Steel yesterday. So I started my DC Universe rewatch so that I can eventually get to the Snyder cut, which is already out. I haven't seen the original cut. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go back and rewatch them all and do it that way. So
solid experiment. I'm going to be camping out here to watch all of the Snyder Cut in my movie Discord later today.
Nice. That sounds fun. Fun indeed. Well, let's get on to this movie. The Devil All the Time. So yeah, I mentioned that I'd seen commercials and stuff. You know how Netflix does their like, hey, you just logged in. Let's show you some thing that you probably don't care about, you know, and it's just
surely you came here for exploration and not to continue the thing that we know you just were watching. There's no way you want to go back to that, right? You want to start another new thing.
That same show that you've watched 6 times already. You don't want to watch that again? Yeah, it's that was my introduction to this thing. And it intrigued me because I think we've all been enamored with Tom Holland as he's done a great job as Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and yeah, like that was what caught my eye. And then I saw Robert Pattinson. I had no idea that Sebastian Stan was in this one. I somehow that slipped my mind, but. What about you? Like, is that a similar thing to how you found out about this? Yeah.
When Netflix has a new movie, they make sure that you know about it.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I saw that trailer. I was intrigued by this. I liked the cast. It seemed like they were giving some good performances. I was on the fence about actually watching it. Like, is this going to be interesting? Is this going to be compelling? Or is it just going to be a bummer? Like, is it going to be too dark and sad and like sweaty?
Sweaty. Okay.
The movie looked hot. It's a hot movie.
I mean, it's back in the day. They don't really have air conditioning like we do nowadays, right? So yeah, sweaty is a good
I don't
adjective.
like to watch movies where the characters are too hot.
Okay.
This is true.
That's funny. Yeah, I really didn't know much about this. I didn't know like when this was really taking place and all of that stuff. It turns out it's a period piece, kind of from the like 40s up through the 60s. It spans a generation or two. I would say this movie was kind of a bummer. Not in a
Yes.
not in a this movie was bad way. It's a really well made film, and it's pretty good. But it's a downer.
Yeah.
Bad things are. It's the devil all the time, as the title says.
Yeah.
You know,
Nobody comes out on top at the end of this. Spoiler alert, but maybe you could tell that. I don't think there are a lot of Southern Gothic tales where somebody does get a happy ending.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it fits the genre. It fits the time period. It fits it all works. It's a great film. I think all of the performances are wonderful. There is quite the ensemble cast. I think the one other thing that I heard about this film was the choices that Robert Pattinson decided to make with his accent and stuff like that. Yeah, it's an accent for sure.
I don't think it's bad. It's just I think he's doing what is right for this character to have.
Yes,
but if you put him in another more down-to-earth movie where he's playing more of a regular guy, then it's going to be a lot more jarring.
It's a little bit over the top. It's a bit eccentric, but that's kind of what his character is.
Yeah, and he's a fiery preacher. Of course he sounds like that.
Yeah, he's a preacher. He's real Southern. He's a major creep. Yeah, and so he has this this accent that just goes up and down and in and out, and it's just like, where is he getting this from? But like I said, it's all of the performances are really good and they're fun to watch. So good stuff there. So when I pitched this last week, I thought this was going to be more of a crime movie, and it is, but it's I would put this on the scale of how crimey is this crime story. I'd probably put it real low,
a 4.
It doesn't really focus on that. It's more about the drama and the kind of the slice of life / our families got tangled up in this big story. And it's more so about that than it is the actual crime. But that I think I was expecting more of a crime when I was reading out what this was about and stuff like that, because there was mention of a serial killer and this and that, and I was just like, okay, not what the Netflix trailer showed me, but I guess I didn't really pay attention to that. So maybe it is. What were you expecting this to be?
I think I was aware that there was killing as a part of it. And I know that the genre does involve a lot of intergenerational stories. But I think I thought it was going to be more condensed. It was going to be more focused on Tom Holland. He still is the protagonist of the film, I'd say so. But there's a lot of storylines that don't involve him. Or they involve his character when he's a little kid. It's a very flashback heavy movie.
Indeed,
you are following the same guy, but it's not Tom Holland as often. And more of a story of something falling, crumbling. Like that sort of decay is a big part of the genre. Yeah. And this is just it's about fallen grandeur. You have riches and they fade away. You fall into bad luck, bad times. You're done wrong in a deal. You're trying to pick up the pieces. You're not at the class you once were. And I don't know how much of that was in the trailer. I haven't seen the trailer in a long time. I don't remember what was in it. It's just
lots
Robert Pattinson yelling.
Shots. Yeah.
I think it was just filling in the blanks from other stories I remember reading in American literature class, and I think it did end up being a bit different than that. It comes right out and tells you at the beginning. It's got this narrator. I think the narrator was the author of the novel this is based on. which is a very cool touch.
Yeah, this is based off of a novel of the same name written by Donald Ray Pollock. The movie, however, was directed by Antonio Campos, produced by Jake Gyllenhaal, and Reva Marker, Randall Poster, and Max Bourne. The screenplay was also by Antonio Campos and Paulo Campos. But yeah, the narrator, which I liked his voice the entire time, and at the end there, it was like based on a novel by Donald Ray Pollock, narrated by Donald Ray Pollock. I was like, whoa, that's kind of cool.
Nice.
Cool. It's like he's reading the audio book like they sometimes do. That was really neat. But so I enjoyed this film, but like I said, it is a bit of a bummer because it is so dark and gloomy and just like everyone is down on their luck and bad things are happening. But I enjoyed it.
I appreciated a lot of things that it had. I do really this is such a well cast movie. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of families in it. Like you'll meet these parents and then later you'll see their kids. Everybody looks like they are related to each other. Like this is some of the best parent and child casting I've seen. This might have just been the mood I was in when I watched it. I had a very exhausting week at work, but I found myself sitting there watching it just going, okay, yeah. All right. Like I
that's life.
As much as I
happens.
Yeah, as much as I appreciated the performances, I had trouble like connecting to anything and like feeling very compelled by any emotional twist and turn. Okay. Like somebody would die and I'd just be like, welp.
Yeah.
There they go.
Well, let's do a quick plot synopsis for people who have not watched this yet, and then we can get into housekeeping and spoilers after that.
Mm-hmm.
So this starts out just after World War II, and it starts with this young guy who is coming back from the war, and he has seen some things. He's seen some very scary things in his time, and he's trying to readjust to regular life, just to be a civilian. And it's not working out exactly like he wants. It's not so bad right away that it's just like this guy is completely different, but he is different though. And he's struggling, and it starts with him and how he has changed, and then we see him when he's older, and he now has a wife and a kid, and how his life has then changed yet again. And then we see what happens to them, and we eventually start following his kid, his son, who then grows up to be played by Tom Holland, and we then follow his life and all the things that are still happening to him, kind of because of some of the things that happened to his father, and just how that how I was gonna say like the effects of his father's life, how that is still influencing him in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, ripple effects are the big theme of this story.
Absolutely, yeah. That's kind of it. It's hard to really talk about it without spoiling things. But yeah, it is this intergenerational story. We at first follow the father and then the son, it's a bit of a bummer, like we keep saying. Bad things are happening all the time. Do you have anything else you want to add to that, or like basic plot synopsis?
Well, we've got other storylines we are following. We're following the dad and boy. I don't even remember his name anymore. I watched this movie like 4 days ago. Following the dad and the boy, and then we're following the boy when he's grown up and he's Tom Holland. And then we're following these two serial killers, and we're sort of following these family friends of the dad who have a daughter who's friends with Tom Holland, and all of their mishaps as well. Just a circle of mishaps.
Tom Holland's character, his name is Arvin Russell. Arvin Eugene Russell. His father was Willard Russell. Yeah, so his dad comes back from the war, and his mom wants to set him up with this certain girl, and he just doesn't care about that. So he goes
Too
off
late.
and starts
I already
his
fell
own.
in love with this waitress. Yeah.
Yeah, he goes and starts a family with the waitress, and that's how we get baby Tom Holland. However, there's also that one girl, and we kind of follow her and her family and what happens there. And then there is this like third piece of the triangle, which is this serial killer. And then I guess you could say there's a fourth, and that is
Sebastian Stan. Yeah.
So, that's a decent plot synopsis. I'm sure there was a more succinct way to say that somehow, but we got there, we got there. So let's get into housekeeping, and then we will go on to spoilers. If you guys did not know, we have multiple podcasts here at The Whatnauts. You guys can find out more information on our website, thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. Just type in The Whatnauts, and all of our shows will pop up right there. We just finished our episode 1 reactions of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Those are up on our website and up on podcast feeds under our podcast, The Reactor Core. So again, just go type in The Whatnauts, and all of our shows will pop up right there. If you like what we do, patreon.com/The Whatnauts is where you can support us for as little as $1 a month. We have a $3 tier with all kinds of exclusive content, and we are in the works to schedule our next thing to go up. So be on the lookout for that down the road. If you are at the $5 tier, you get a shout out here on the show. So thank you, Sam, so much for helping us out, for keeping the mics on. We appreciate you. If you guys want to watch us on Twitch, we do have a Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/The Whatnauts. We are usually there each Wednesday, for Friday, and Sunday night. We do not live stream this podcast out to the public, but we do our Captain's Log show. So that one is on there, as well as playing some video games and stuff like that. I was supposed to start playing Breath of the Wild last week. Didn't happen because I had major issues. So today, fingers crossed, hopefully I will get to record that and play that one. So be on the lookout for that. But I think that wraps us up for housekeeping. So let's get on to spoilers. Bam, there we go. Can you believe Dumbledore died in this?
Carl, you've done this joke 4 times. This is like a rule.
Every
you do
time
it once.
I'm amazed that he's in another goddamn movie that has nothing to do with magic.
Yeah, no movie changes the fact that Dumbledore has died. He's like, you can say that about every movie. You still can't believe it. Snyder Cut's not going to erase that. He's still dead.
Dumbledore's dead all the time.
The Voldemort all the time.
Yeah.
I want to start with the way this movie starts, which is of a map of the area. This movie takes place across Ohio and West Virginia, I think.
Believe so, yeah.
And we've got the narrator, we have the author telling us, there's these 2 tiny towns in both of these states, and these families have been back and forth through them, and they're connected. And isn't it how funny how everything is connected? And you watch these interconnected stories, and I never felt a lot of payoff from them being connected. And I wonder if that's because it was laid out for me so clearly in the beginning. Like there was no game for me to play to find connections of like, oh, if this character's here, that means they've been over there, or this character is going to have to meet this character. Like he told me at the beginning, everybody knows each other.
Yeah, I see exactly what you mean. I didn't think about it that way, but now that you mention it, that makes a lot of sense. One thing that this show reminded me of was the anime Durururura, which is one of my favorites.
Oh.
And it does a very similar storytelling technique.
Oh, wait. We read Dororo. That's different.
Yes,
I don't know what Durururura is.
Highly recommend it. Go watch it. It's wonderful. Very, very different from this, but it uses a similar storytelling technique where it is telling you multiple stories at once. And the difference is that show doesn't necessarily tell you at first how they are connected or like when exactly they're happening in the timeline. And so as it continues, you start to like put the pieces together of like, oh, that's this person's like mom or this guy they got to meet, and they're like, oh, that's how that thing got started, and this show or this movie does that, but like you said, spells it all out at the start. And I think it would have been really, really cool to see it like that was his father. Oh man, like what? No way. But you're like, this is the boy's father. And just like, oh, okay.
What this reminded me of from our review show back catalog is Essex County, the Jeff Lemire comic, which takes place in Canada, but also has like these very small, personal, intergenerational stories, very melancholy, but it's not told to you how everything is connected. You piece that together as you keep reading, like, oh, that's that boy's dad. And this woman who's the local nurse visiting all these homes, we see her visit all the characters that we've seen previously in these stories. Like you could do that for yourself. And I think that's the fun of it, seeing how everything connects instead of being told they are all connected. And when everything was connected, like I didn't know how to feel about it at the end. I'm like, I see, yes. I don't emotionally feel different. Like when Tom Holland finally encounters Jason Clarke, and he finally kills Jason Clarke and kills Jason Clarke's wife. Again, I don't remember. I forgot everybody's names. Normally, I'm better at this.
Leroy Brown. bad Leroy Brown. Let's see, where's Jason Clarke? No, that's not it. I don't know where I got that from. His name was Carl Henderson. Definitely not Leroy Brown. There is someone in the movie named Leroy Brown, played by Douglas Hodge, a pimp who keeps Sheriff Bodecker on his payroll.
Yeah.
The sheriff murders him and his bodyguard to protect his re-election prospects.
You know what's so funny about that is that's Encyclopedia Brown's real name. Boy Detective Encyclopedia Brown. His parents did not name him Encyclopedia. He gave that name to himself. His real name is Leroy Brown.
You'll learn something new every day, folks.
When Arvin kills Carl and Mrs. Carl.
I will look it up right now. Sandy Henderson.
Sandy, thank you. I never do this. I think I was just really kind of checked out during the movie. Like it never pulled me in. Like I was sitting there like, this looks good. For as much squalor as the film contains, it's shot well. Everything looks accurate to the period. Beautiful landscapes, great performances, good accent work. Tom Holland's accent in this, what he's doing with his voice and the way he's got his jaw clenched, really impressive. I'm always impressed to hear him do any variant of an American accent. They always sound so different. Like I went to see Onward, and in front of Onward, they had like a trailer for Spies in Disguise. or maybe I saw both of those trailers next to each other in front of another film. I don't know, but I'm like, he sounds kind of different in both of those movies. I'd love to watch him back to back and
Good
really
actor is
trace
good.
his voice work. But anyway, for all the things I did appreciate about the movie, like I never got like really pulled in or really attached. It just felt so transient to me. And I don't know what it is. Like I said, maybe it was like my own mood. I had a long week at work. I sat down to watch this like 5 minutes after I clocked off from a long day. Like, this is the pocket of time I have, time to watch the devil all the time. So I think it was like my headspace. This is not all on the shoulders of the film.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Anyway, so he shoots Leroy and Sandy, and
Carl,
intellectually,
I'm already messing you up.
What?
Carl and Sandy, I'm already messing you up.
Carl and Sandy. He shoots them. He ends that storyline to some degree. Then Sebastian Stan comes for him.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't feel like some great meeting. It didn't feel like, oh, finally, these two stories are going to cross over with each other. Emotionally, intellectually, I knew this was inevitable because the movie gave me that checklist at the beginning.
It's more
things
of a tragedy.
are connected.
Because of this, right? Like, I think if it was a mystery and we were piecing it together ourselves, I think that would be the focus of the film. And it would be this like, oh, that's really cool moment, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this, like, it's a tragedy and you know that from the start and it just keeps getting worse and worse. And you're just like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That was it, I guess. You know, which I think is the feeling of this film. And I think even at the end of the film, when things do finally wrap up, it's more hopeful than the rest of the movie, but it's also not like hopeful, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not this like super uplifting feeling because he like basically Tom Holland escapes, right? And he's in this hippie's car falling asleep, but there's this like line of like he doesn't really want to fall asleep because he doesn't really know this guy, he doesn't really trust him, so but that's life. I guess you just fall asleep sometimes. So you know.
Yeah, the whole movie had a well, that's life sort of feeling to it. Like I sat there, it was like I was watching a lecture and I was taking notes. Like I was just like, I see. Yes, I understand. Yeah, I see how that connects to the thing from before. Like I wasn't emotionally like, oh, finally, Arvin has killed the man who killed his sister's dad. He's taken, he's righted things for Lenora and his family. Like I could like see that mentally, but emotionally I'm just like, yeah.
It's Tuesday, right? Yeah. Okay. Sounds about right. Yeah, it's an interesting story. I want to say that this started out really, really strong for me because of the way you start to see it connect. But yeah, like we've been mentioning, by the end of the film, we're just like, we know all of this. Like, you don't need to, like, there's nothing really else here for me to get. But yeah, that that one scene where they're at the diner and Carl is about to sit down, and that's when Willard comes in his military uniform, and that's why he's like, hey, thanks for your service. You sit down here, and I'll go sit somewhere else. Like that moment was really cool. It was like, oh, I like this. Like, this is exactly like Dururura. I'm gonna love this. And then it didn't go downhill in terms of quality, but my interest in like what they were doing with things went downhill, and I was just like, okay, not what I was hoping for, but sure. And then it stayed where we've been mentioning it was there. But I do want to
Yeah.
ask you, of the like 4 major kind of character / plot lines, did you have one that stood out as your favorite?
What I liked, I think was my favorite, was Lenora and her parents. Her dad is played by the guy we just saw in The Queen's Gambit, who I really loved in that
Dudley
show.
from
And
Harry Potter, like we said,
yeah,
Dumbledore all the time.
Right, and he's so good in this too. He's got such an interesting looking face and these very intense eyes, and he's able to play. He's kind of a little bit of a sad sack in The Queen's Gambit, and there's like a little bit of that here, but also this like kind of frightening intensity. Like, is this guy a real rough customer? Like, he's kind of scary. And I like his story that like he's this preacher and he has this whole sermon about how he was terrified of spiders. But like with God's power, he can confront spiders. And in the middle of the church, he dumps a bag of spiders on himself. He's like, look at me, the Lord gives me strength. I'm covered in spiders and I don't care. And then he's doing this, and he does it again.
Take that, Tom Holland. I'm the real Spider-Man.
Right. This is the Tom Holland project that actually does feature the most spiders.
Yeah.
The most real spiders.
True.
That we see off screen, we are told that like during one of these sermons, this is apparently a stunt he pulls fairly often. He's a traveling preacher, I think. One of the spiders bites him and he gets all swollen up and he thinks he looks gross and he like hides in a closet for 2 weeks until the swelling goes down. I think partially maybe out of some vanity, but also about like, I thought God would never let a spider bite me. Like, I'm being tested. Like, something's gone wrong. I need to like commune with God.
My faith is not strong enough. Yes. Do something else.
Yeah, and so he just hides in a closet. You know, he's got a wife, he's got a baby. He's not attending to any of that. He's just in the closet with God. And he gets this message, he thinks. And he comes out of the closet, his face is better. And he goes out, he's going to take his wife out for a drive. Like, let's go walk in the woods. Let's go pray in the woods. And he takes her out there and he kills her, believing that he has been given the ability to resurrect her. Like, he kills her to resurrect her, because that's what he thinks God told him he can do now. You got bit by a spider and this is your superpower. You can bring people back from the dead. Just him, God, this is what I wanted, was more of these like acts of foolishness of, oh no, I screwed up, instead of these more purposeful acts of, my back is against the wall. I don't want to kill this man, but after the wrong he has done, I feel like I should kill him. Yeah, it's, you know, if Tom Holland accidentally shot Robert Pattinson, that would be a different feeling. I think this is the one place where we get the, oh, whoops, oh no, and he's just freaking out. He's killed his wife. He buries his wife in the woods. And then he's like trying to escape, and then Carl and Sandy get him, and he's their first murder victim. No, not their first, one of their first murder victims.
I don't know if they say he's legitimately the first or he's just early on, but that's also a plot thread that at that point we don't see what happens, and the guy just leaves his brother in the car, and we don't find out what happens. Like, somewhere along the line they stop the car, maybe to like go get gas, because maybe they ran out of gas. I don't know. And yeah, he like walked off and started hitchhiking while his brother is still in the car, wakes up to him not there, and is just like, what's going on?
Right.
And then we never see him again. And just like the movie just leaves him behind, and it's wild. Like, I do kind of like that aspect where it is this just like, oh shit, I messed up. Like, what am I doing? I need to fix this. Because I think that is maybe more entertaining to watch than like a purposeful. Which, I mean, I think they're both entertaining, but the like screw up is more entertaining in a like
Yes.
haha funny like let's watch how this pans out, whereas the like purposeful stuff is entertaining, but there's so much tension and drama, and it weighs more on you, just like ooh, like I feel sad, I feel depressed. Right?
I like when tragedy has got like a sliver of dark comedy running through it, where it kind of stops and nods at, this is a level of tragedy that is almost comedic. How preposterous this situation is when you kill your wife because you think God gave you the ability to resurrect the dead.
The only other character that I think had that in them was the preacher. Because he is so eccentric with his accent, right? He is so... The whole, like, potluck scene where he is the only one who's allowed to get food first and start eating, and then just, like... It's ridiculous! So dumb!
It's this crazy stunt! So, like, Tom Holland, after his parents die, lives with his grandma, and there's a new preacher coming to town, because the old preacher, like, he's having health troubles. He's like, I'm going away for a while to heal... my nephew's going to come run the church for several months, a year, whatever. And so there's this big party to welcome the preacher, and everybody's bringing this food. And the grandma wants to bring something really impressive. Like, she's like, I never get the chance to make it, but people tell me I make a really good steak. Should I buy the steak? And Arvin's like, no, Grandma, you're such an amazing cook. It doesn't matter what you cook. Just get like the livers. Just get the cheap meat. Like, I believe in your ability to do it up fine enough that this preacher will be impressed. And they bring out the food, and like all the food is laid out, and the preacher does this stunt where he's like, I ate from the food, and I am going to eat all of these livers, the cheapest meats here, so that you, my people, you can take from the more high quality meats. I sacrificed for you. God is telling me, eat the worst food here.
But he's also like he like tasted the sauce when they first walked in, and he knows how good they are, so he's just like, I want all the good stuff for me, so I'm gonna eat all of these. And they are so mad, and so like stuff like that. And then I think even the scene when, and again, I don't know, you guys know me, I'm the one that's
right, it's a curse that has afflicted both of us.
Lenora is Arvin's stepsister. So when she is in the car with him, and the preacher is like, well, have you shown yourself to God? If like, it's creepy, it's disgusting, it's all of that stuff, but it has that air of ridiculousness of like, who would fall for that? What's going on here? What? I don't. It was maddening.
Yeah, Lenora. I think Lenora was the character that I did feel the most for, because she's got such a sad backstory.
Happy,
yes,
yeah, like despite all of the tragedy, she was the most happy. And so yeah.
Yeah, like she worked to find positive things in the world. She's very loving towards Grandma and Arvin, and she goes to visit her mother's grave every day. And when you put out the timeline, it seems like she thinks her parents just disappeared, and then like when she's like 8 or something, like it's like it takes them like 5 or 8 years to find her mother's body in the woods. So like she's like a little kid when she learns my mother did die. Like somebody killed her. They don't talk about it, but you can see that she's got that turning point for her in her past. And then she starts going to, once her mother has a grave, she starts going to the grave every day after school. All these boys, there's some neat bits of tragedy where there's points where you can see like a turning point where if somebody had just made a different decision, things would have gone in a better way. Like there's all these boys at school that have been teasing her, and Arvin would go with her to her mother's grave after school most days. And one day he's like, how about you just go on yourself? I have something to take care of. And then he goes and he beats up all of those guys who had been teasing her and gives them the message like, don't do that again. And they don't. But because he's not there, then Robert Pattinson comes in and manipulates her, gets her pregnant, and then she tries to commit suicide, decides not to. You know what? No, I'm going to find a way through this. You know, I'm going to love this baby. You know, I'm going to make a life for myself. But she's already put the noose on her neck and she slips trying to get down from the bucket and then hangs herself by accident, which is very sad.
Really sucks, yeah.
But also that like 3%, this is very ridiculous, which is what I like it to be at.
Sure,
Not higher than that, then it like completely changes the tone of the film and the feeling you're supposed to get after these actions. But like that's like those 1 in a million chances, I think, are very effective in tragedy stories like these, where it's like you stepped your foot like a centimeter to the wrong side, or you picked the wrong day to go beat up a bully. Like these pathways where you should have done just the next thing over and you didn't, and you had no reason to know that you shouldn't have.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, like, you picked the wrong moment to go beat up a bully, because that, like, the whole thing for Arvin's character is picking the right moment. That's what his father taught him at the start. Like, it's like, hey, you can get back at them. It's okay to like get back at them, but you need to pick the right moment. And so he thinks like, hey, I'm not gonna go beat them up right now when I see them beating up my sister. I'm gonna wait for the moment when they're all separated and I can go get them one by one. And he sees his moment of like, if my sister is at the graveyard, then I'll have enough time to go get them while they're all like at work or just getting off of school or something, right? So he takes his shot then, and that's when the devil swoops in, and it's just like,
yes,
not the right time, Arvin, not the right time.
Yeah, not that it's his responsibility. I mean, he takes a lot of responsibility for Lenora, but not that it is cosmically his job to be there to prevent Robert Pattinson from doing bad things. Yeah, like he did not do wrong by her. He just did something that he thought was the right thing for her at what he thought was the right time. Turns out it was the wrong time, and the good that he got out of that did not match up to the bad that was starting to happen because he did that. Like there were wheels being put in motion that he couldn't see.
Yeah.
And I do like that part of the story.
Yeah. That's always interesting when they can do stuff like that. But I don't know.
Yeah.
So one of my other complaints with this movie, I want to say it was maybe about half an hour too long.
Yeah.
I like all of the stuff that they did with the, like, it's not even really flashbacks, but like the first half an hour of the film is focusing on the father, Willard, and what happened to him and his life and all that stuff. And it isn't until about like maybe 30, 40 minutes into the film, then we meet Tom Holland's version of the character. We see him when he's like a younger child, but he's played by someone else. So yeah, with Tom Holland basically being the main character of the movie, it's a little strange that we don't see him for like the first 40 minutes. And so I feel like they could have done could have done a better job of like condensing that first 30 minutes ish, and maybe actually having those be flashbacks or like specific strategic, like there was this flash of this scene when they met at the diner, or just like a quicker montage. I think we would have understood it just the same. Might not have had the same effect, might not have made it a better movie, but I don't know. It felt half an hour too long, and
Yeah.
you look at it, and it's like, well, if he's the main character, I guess you could just chop off that bit, but I don't know, like that.
Yeah.
That's not the end all solution with that, so I don't know what to do with that.
No, I see what you're saying. This movie is very slow, and it's got a sort of languid pace to it, which fits it being a Southern Gothic story. You know, it's a place everything's hot and everything's slow.
They're all sweaty.
It kind of makes sense. Yeah, it's sweaty, so the story doesn't move very fast. But I would like click on my remote to see how much of the movie was left, and I'd be like, what else is going to happen in the next 45 minutes?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I knew there was the kind of checkbox quality laid out to me at the beginning of these things are connected. So I'm waiting to see how they're connected, but just as like a measure of time. It's just like something on a to-do list for me. I wasn't excited to see, is he ever going to meet Jason Clarke? Then what happens?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
To get back to the narration again, we've been talking a lot about how the narration fits into the movie. We've covered some stories that have great narration. Just a couple weeks ago, we read The Vision.
Yeah.
Which is a comic book that I think uses its narration to great effect, where it's got a real sense of tension. Like when the Visions move into their house and their neighbors come and visit them, there's this narration bubble that says, a couple weeks from then, one of the Vision children will set their house on fire by mistake. And these will be those characters' last thoughts. And like you don't, like you've got this hint, like you've got this hook, but like no clues. And so you're spending the time looking for the clues. Like, when is this happening? Which one of the kids is going to light their house on fire? How are they going to light their house on fire? Like, is it on purpose? Is it an accident? Like, that's, you got a lot of tension out of that. And I didn't feel a lot of tension, I think, because it was like laid out. You were told that everything was connected. I think if the narration was a bit more abstract and a bit more thematic and a bit more of this sort of like cosmic muse sort of impartial judge just sort of watching over and commenting on the lives of men. If it was a little bit less personal.
Let me ask you this. We can't really review a movie that we didn't watch, right? But how would you have felt if it was narrated by the devil and he's the one that's like setting things up and like pushing things into place?
Well, how do we know this isn't the devil?
I mean, we don't.
I would love if the movie started with, "Hi, I'm the devil. Let's look at this little town in Ohio."
Hi, I am John Devil. I would like to welcome you to Devil All the Time, but thank you for coming to my TED Talk. But like not in a comedic way is what I mean, but like that menacing thing that you just mentioned from The Vision of like in 20 years from now, Arvin will murder the people that killed so and so. So if we see that and we start being like, oh, how is he gonna do that, or like when he goes to beat up the people that have been picking on his sister, then and that's when I stepped in to send the preacher to go do this thing, and it is this like omniscient but malevolent narrator of like, I'm not impartial, just being like, and this happened next, but it's just like, and then I did this and I sent this guy, and I think that'd be more menacing. It'd be interesting. Who knows? It's not what we got though.
Yeah, like there's such a sense of menace that pervades the entire film. It's hard for specific instances of menace to really make an effect on you. I think I think Lenore is one of the most compelling characters because she has the most brightness to her to get eroded, whereas Arvin rarely smiles at all.
Yeah.
So you don't feel as affected by bad things happening to him. It's like, well, he's been there already. He did.
Yeah. So I wanted to say, like, as we're talking about all of that, I mean, I haven't read the book, so I don't know how the book compares, but I feel like this seems to me like this is almost a direct adaptation of the book, and that's why they chose to do things the way they were, and not like, hey, we're taking the book and maybe chopping it up or like changing this storyline. It seemed like this was, as much as they could, a one-for-one adaptation. I'm not sure if that's true, but that's what it
before I
like.
even got to the end credits, I'm like, I bet this is based on a book. I don't think I knew that, but I'm like, I can tell.
It really felt like
this
one.
feels literary.
Yeah. It really felt like that.
And I think, like, the point I was trying to make is that this movie doesn't have a lot of contrast.
True.
Like, there aren't very strong light moments to offset the very strong dark moments. So when very strong dark moments happen, I didn't feel very much because we've had so many minor dark moments happening the whole time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sebastian Stan. His
we haven't talked about his storyline at all.
Sheriff Lee Bodecker. I had no idea that he was in this film, even when I pitched it last week. I think I didn't mention his name. Maybe I did. I legitimately don't remember. But it was a surprise to see him. I don't think I recognized him at first. Well, no. I recognized him when he was in the car getting the hand job, and then I completely forgot that he was in the film.
Yeah, he goes away for a while. Him and Carl and Sandy, they disappear for like a big chunk of the movie.
Yeah, I would have liked to see more of Carl and Sandy too, but there's this big gap where he's not there, and I forgot he was in there, and then when he kind of showed up in the like last third of the film and is the like final protagonist or antagonist, I was like, that's strange. Oh, wait, he was also the cop that found him when he was a younger. I didn't realize that. Okay. Like I did realize that. I just didn't like think about it, if that makes sense. Like, it wasn't impactful to me. Of like, oh shit, this is the same cop. He knows everything that happened.
Exactly.
And oh no, it was his sister that was the serial killer and stuff like that. Like, the stuff that I think should have had impact didn't. And I think it left his character the weakest because of it. Because I think he should have been the piece that, like, once it slid in, was just like, oh, this all fits now. Like, that was his sister. They were the serial killers. That means that's his father. Oh my God, right? Like, like, that should have been, I think, the thing that was the, like, oh my God, light bulb moment. But it wasn't. It was just like, oh, I guess that's the same guy. Huh.
Exactly. There are no oh shit moments in this movie. It's just, I see.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Tuesday.
I understand.
Dumbledore's still dead.
And again, and like you said, I'm not trying to like review a movie I didn't see. I think it's unusual that I was checked out of this film, and I'm trying to look at my own life. Like, what was it my headspace? Did I watch this movie at, much like Tom Holland, thinking like, now is the right time to do this action, and then it wasn't? Like, did I think it was the right time for me to watch the movie and it wasn't? I'm trying to look at that, and I'm trying to look at, if the movie was rearranged a little differently, would I have connected with it more? If the narration was changed, if the editing was changed?
I think so. to be honest. Like that is the difference between books and movies. Like books enable you to craft a story in certain ways. There's certain tools you can use, but movies don't necessarily have those same tools. They have a different set. So you can tell stories a different way. And like we said, I think this really felt like a one-to-one adaptation of the book. I haven't read the book. Again, so I'm not sure, but that's what it felt like to me. Like as much as they could, it was one for one. And I think it would have maybe benefited from changing it up and being like, how can we take this story and better change it to fit a movie setting? If that makes sense. But who knows? Who knows? Something else that I feel like was maybe lacking in this it's usually a good thing when you don't notice the music in a way that takes you out of the film. I didn't notice any music, period. So which is kind of strange to me. Like now that I think about it, like I feel like I would have maybe connected to this more if there was more interesting music. I don't know. Like that's a weird thought, but it just seems so lacking.
You're right. I don't remember the score, which isn't unusual for me. Sure. I'm not a very musical person. There are a lot of times when a score just flies over my head because that's just not the sense that I connect with. But I did like the songs, the individual songs that were played throughout the movie, and like the moms singing their kids and like songs on the jukeboxes.
That stuff is.
There's a scene where is it Sebastian Stan that goes to that bar that also has like a brothel in the back of it, and he gets in a fight with the bouncer to get to the brothel section, and there's a jukebox in the room. And when they get into this big brawl, it's like when the jukebox is turning over and like there's no music, it's just the clicking noise of the jukebox, like flipping one record over into another. Like that seems like such a natural place to put a needle drop, to put like either like an appropriate song or like kind of like a weird song, you know, like something cutesy, and it like that underscores the scene because it's so different from the violence. I kind of like the fact that it's like, no, like they choose to fight again at like the wrong time when there's no song playing.
Everything is the wrong
just
time.
The jukebox mechanically clicking.
You mentioned that, and it made me think. Yeah, to be honest, I think a touch like that is kind of genius, actually, in that specific moment, right? Where it is this like. It's the wrong time, right? Where the whole thing is like, pick the right moment. But I think even the idea of the record flipping over and transitioning to the next one is something we get in this film between Willard and his son, Arvin. Like the whole story is the record flipping over from one of them to the next.
Yes.
Where you get maybe a little bit of like, okay, I see the song title, so I know what's coming up, but then we don't actually get the song. Like we got the consequences of Willard's actions in his life affecting Arvin, and he's dealing with those, but we also don't really get Arvin. Right? Like we don't get him just being himself, being a kid, being like is he like he was reading comic books when he was younger? Like does he still like comic? I don't know. You know? Like we don't get
what
to
if one
see
of these guys
him.
had spider powers,
Right?
He says to himself.
Yeah. Like we don't get to see him just being a kid. Right? So we don't get to hear his song is what I'm trying to say.
That's true. You're right. Yeah, there is some characterization missing from him, or like things that have been taken away from him because of the past that he had.
Yeah.
Like, is when he's like 8 years old, is there a life he wanted for himself that is now destroyed now that his parents and his dog are dead?
Yeah.
You know, he has to move to this completely different town. Like, does he have some sense of lost potential? Was there like some dream he always wanted to chase that now he's like trying to get back to? You just mentioned comic books. This movie takes place in like the early 60s. I think it gets up to like 64 maybe at its latest point. I was sitting there thinking it's bananas that this happens at the same time as the Fantastic Four.
Yep.
In 1962. Because this, and even if it's like shiny comic book New York City, like you can still see enough of the real world there in the Fantastic Four comics. And to look at that and then to look at like this little community, it's like this doesn't feel like the same time at all.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
It's strange how that can happen though, because I'm in Richmond, Virginia, but you go like half an hour south of here, and you cannot understand the accents. They are so southern, and it's just like, what? Like I live half an hour from you. Like how is this possible? And it's just like, those small towns, man. Sometimes they have nothing and they have no connection and they just move at their own pace, and it's that's
I
wild.
like that. I did like the bit where the narrator talks about how Willard and his family moved into that house in Knockemstiff, I think.
Knockemstiff.
And how they'd been there they'd been there for like 8 years, but still that was a short enough time that the locals, who were all these like generations of like farmers who'd been there forever, that they're like, those are outsiders and we don't like them.
Yeah. How did you feel? So when Tom Holland goes back to the old family house and he stops at the gas station and asks for directions, and it's the same guy that found him that night. How did you feel about him calling the cops when he realized who he was? Because he was the one that called Sebastian Stan to go get him.
Maybe he felt like it was better for him to talk to the cops than anybody else because he was there for a traumatic event in this boy's history. And maybe he's like, I should be the one to like call who's ever on patrol on here and let them know, hey, I found a guy who I think is a wanted criminal. I knew him when he was a kid. His mom, like he watched his dad die. Like, I think this is a guy who's had a lot of trouble in his past. Like, be gentle with him if you can.
Did he know that he was wanted for the murder of Carl and Sandy?
Well, I thought he must have. Otherwise, I don't remember. I thought that's what you were talking about.
Well, yeah, he called the cops on him. But I'm trying to think now, like why did he call the cops? They must have. They might. Well, I guess they were looking for him. Yeah, they must have been looking for him for the murder of the preacher.
Ah, yes.
And so there must have been some like APB out, and you know how small towns are and stuff like that. The word travels incredibly fast, even though now I guess he's in a different state. But still just like, hey, this boy showed up. That's strange. Hey, police. Why don't you guys come on down here? But yeah, I just thought that was a bit strange. I don't think that guy really had any reason to call the cops. Like, it was just strange to me that he did, and I was upset. I was like, why? Why would you, like, this guy was good. Like, he looked after the kid. Why would top 10 anime betrayals of all time?
I don't remember anything between when the two of them talk at the gas station and when Sebastian Stan shows up.
Yeah, the conversation by itself I don't think was super important, but it was enough to, I think, tip the guy off that maybe he was up to no good. But he really wasn't. Like, he was going back there to just finish things off and bury his dog. which he's kept the bones with him the entire time.
No, he found the bones out there.
Oh,
I think the dog's corpse was left in the woods, and he always wanted to go back. Like, I think the night his dad killed himself, he was saying, that's why he goes out there and finds his dad. He's like, I want to give my dog a proper burial.
Right, yeah.
And then he's taken away. He's into his grandma's. He never gets to do it. So he goes back out and he finds like
that makes sense.
the bleached, dried bones. And he's like, now's the time. The rest in peace, Jack.
Yeah.
Sorry, my dad killed you as a sacrifice, thinking it would get my mom to come back.
Wild.
Which mirrors what happens with Lenora's parents, where her dad's like, if I kill her, I can bring her back. Like, I have this. Like, you almost wish those guys would have met up with each other because they're on
compare notes.
They're weirdly complimentary.
Yeah.
Like, the more we talk about this movie, like there is some neat symbolism.
Did it work for you? Nah, man.
Right. Like, there's some symbolism. There's themes. There's interesting parallels that are there. Like, I think this is a movie that does have depth to it. It has layers. Yeah. There's things I appreciated out after we've been bouncing, discussion often back and forth off each other. Yeah. It's a movie that you're not supposed to only watch once. If you can get through it another couple times, you'll get more out of it.
Maybe. I think our comment before of just like everything is spelled out from square one, though, doesn't necessarily mean you need to rewatch it. Like you missed something or you'll learn something new, but could be interesting.
Maybe in the future, I'll show this to somebody and just start the movie like 5 minutes in.
Maybe,
just get, like, if I don't show them that narration bit at the beginning, maybe they'll have a completely different experience with the movie than I had.
Interesting. That'd be an interesting experiment. Just start it when Tom Holland shows up, and then at the end, go back. Or something.
This is like showing somebody
weird.
It's like the machete order for Star Wars or whatever name of the order it is, where it's like, okay, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, then we're gonna go watch the prequels so you understand how Anakin became Darth Vader, and then we're gonna finish it off with Return of the Jedi.
Yep. Indeed. Sebastian Stan was good. I liked him in this. I was hoping for some kind of joke that I knew would never come when him and Spider-Man are hiding. Neat, a metal arm. But no, that
I remember you from that airport in Germany.
Yeah. No, that was never going to happen. But yeah, good film. Very depressing film, though.
Yeah.
Not one that you want to watch at like an upbeat party.
No, I can't imagine that.
No.
I can't imagine at what gathering you watch this.
Oh God.
Maybe if you're like a group of theater kids who are trying to practice your accents, so you just watch it for 5 minutes, like pause it, like, okay, do what Robert Pattinson did.
Right.
Like if you're just having an accent party.
An accent party. That'd be strange. Like, yeah, what? You have to have like 5 movies. Like everyone brought their own to be like, who has the most exotic, crazy accent, like to show us.
Or like, well, we have a lot of British actors doing these Southern accents in this movie.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the context that it's it's a training film for Brits trying to do this. Like,
to be honest, I wouldn't.
This is an exercise.
Past them to do stuff like that. But who knows? I think that's about all I have to say on this film, though. It's an interesting one, but I think it's hard to recommend to people unless you are like super into artsy films or stuff that is just maybe a little bit outside of the norm. But it might be an easier book to recommend. Maybe. But it's like,
maybe. I don't know. Again, like, I don't know anything about the book.
It's still
and
neat,
I think the
though,
strongest part of
what they did with this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think the strongest part of the movie is the cast and the performances. That's what drew me into it in the first place.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you'd be missing out on a lot of that if you read the book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, do you have recommendations? If people liked
Yes.
The Devil All the Time, what else would you recommend?
So in this movie, we have Batman playing a fiery preacher. And if you want to see the Riddler playing a fiery preacher, you can see Paul Dano in There Will Be Blood.
There you go. Good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, his character reminded me a lot of what Paul Dano was doing in that movie. So kind of interesting compliments to each other. You can watch a hero and his villain playing, not really similar characters, but doing some similar scenes, the
Sure.
same impassioned, eccentric preacher who rolls into town.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And this movie reminded me of when I was in college and I was taking a survey of American literature class. We read some William Faulkner. We read some Cormac McCarthy, both have some good Southern Gothic storylines there. And I recently watched No Country for Old Men, which is based off a Cormac McCarthy novel.
There you go. Yeah.
And is also about these. That one's more of a crime story. Have you seen No Country for Old Men?
I have. It's been a long time, but yeah, I
watched it for the first time just a couple of weeks ago. That movie had a lot of what I was looking for, and that it's got that dark comic thread running through all the sad, dark things that happen.
Yeah.
Yes, that does a lot for me.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that one's it's toned a little bit better. It's a lot more tense. And I think it's also got like an interesting, slow storytelling style where like what you think is going to be the climax of the movie happens like 40 minutes before the end.
Yeah.
And then you're sort of watching the slow denouement. You're watching it wind down until it's just Tommy Lee Jones retired sitting at his kitchen table talking to his wife about how he had a dream about his dad. And he's like, I don't know how to live. I don't know how to move along in the world now.
Oh, there you go. So I have a couple recommendations as well. Mine are kind of all over the place.
Okay.
I've already mentioned Durarara, which is very, very different from this. It's an anime. It takes place in a city, but like I said, it has a similar storytelling technique where it's giving you these different stories from different places in the city, and as the series continues, you kind of see how they all twist in together. But I like that one a lot. There is a supernatural element to it, so be aware of that. But yeah, I like that one a lot. It is very good. Another, I believe it's a Coen Brothers film, but also still very different. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yes. Yes.
If you want maybe a more comedic side of this stuff, I think Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is top tier in this. It's a great film. But that I think is pre-World War II. I think it's like just after World War I, I think.
Yeah, it's like the 20s
20s
maybe.
Or 30s, yeah, something like that.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, so that one I think would be a good one if you want maybe a little bit more of the like dark comedy stuff. And it's also a retelling of the Odyssey. So you guys can go check that out. And then, last but not least, I think the recommendation for just kind of the like down on your luck, not much good things is happening. Go watch Go watch Deadwood from HBO. I really enjoyed that series. I watched it last year for the first time. Really interesting characters. They're struggling. They're struggling to survive and make their town and keep it away from the United States government. And just like it's not depressing like this one is.
Mm-hmm.
But it is still this like, hey, here's people struggling to make a life and them doing all of that stuff. And it's good. I enjoyed it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it has Timothy Olyphant in it. And I know a lot of people like him, especially since he's been in The Mandalorian recently.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Playing a very similar character. It's like, oh, okay. There you go. But that's what I would recommend.
Mm-hmm. So next week on the show, we are returning to our end of the month monthly series. We're going to be watching season 3 of Halt and Catch Fire.
Mm-hmm.
Last 2 months we did season 1 and 2. And a month after that will be season 4. And then that's the end of it. And we'll move on to some other monthly ongoing series for longer content. So that will be episode 150, actually.
Yeah. Look at us, right? Episode 150.
Big kids. So what I am pitching is for episode 151. And I took that into account. I thought about it. And I thought that the most appropriate thing to pitch would be Pokemon the first movie.
I had a feeling. Yes.
Featuring the debut of Mew, the 151st Pokemon.
Great.
This is very different tonally. Do you need me to read you the back of the box? Do you need to be reminded what Pokemon the first movie is about?
What is this Pokemon that you're talking about? Pokemans? Pokemon? Isn't that a Streber?
It stands for pocket monsters. They're little monsters. They live in your pocket. Mewtwo's psychic and he can talk to you. It's a whole thing. Yeah, so we can watch Pokemon the first movie. There's also this movie on Netflix called, I think, Pokemon Evolution Mewtwo Strikes Back. That seems like it's a direct remake of this, but with contemporary CGI animation.
Okay.
I've been meaning to check it out to see if it is just exactly this again or how different it is. So if you end up going with this one, we have the option of adding that on.
Okay.
To you, discuss that too. You know, not exactly a compare and contrast because we might find that it's
exactly
only
the same.
compare.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. But yeah. That's pitch number 1. And I had that. And then I was trying to think of what else I could pitch. And I realized for being as a huge entertainment property important to our childhoods, we've never talked about Pokemon before on the review show. So I thought I would look at other entertainment properties we've never touched on on this show. So pitch number 2 is a series of Power Rangers comic books.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think
this is from
Boom Studios.
Yes. Yeah, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers by Kyle Higgins, Steve Orlando, Magritte Scott, and Daniel Bayliss. Produced by Boom Studios from 2016. Diving into the first collection of our best-selling modern ongoing Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series. After escaping Rita Repulsa's mind control, Tommy Oliver, the Green Ranger, joins the Power Rangers to combat the onslaught of evil attacks plaguing Angel Grove. Any semblance of a normal life is gone for Tommy now, but with his newfound family, there lies hope for a brighter path. Collects issues 1 through 4 plus the prequel issue 0. And they've got a blurb from IGN saying, by striking a tone that ably flirts between old and new, the creators appear prepped to give fans what they want, a darn good Power Rangers tale.
I have heard
I thought maybe we could read the first
about the Power Rangers comics from Boom Studios, so might be one we check out.
Yeah, I thought we'd read the first 2 volumes of this, and these are on Comixology Unlimited.
Perfect. And
then pitch number 3, another property we've never talked about on the review show, and a property I really don't know well. I know a middling amount about Power Rangers. I feel like everybody else I know who knows anything about Power Rangers knows a lot about Power Rangers.
True.
I don't know too much, but this is something I really don't know. This is one of the last few major pop culture franchises that I can barely keep straight at all. You brought it up last week. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
Last week, you pitched some TMNT comic books. I went to pitch season 1 of the cartoon just called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 2002. And I think it aired on Nickelodeon. It's a CGI. They've got kind of like a blocky look to them.
Yeah.
It's that one.
Yeah, okay.
I remember hearing good things about this when it came out, and it seemed like a nice introduction to the Turtles as they have been in more contemporary media. So season 1 is 26 episodes. It's available on Hulu. And the little Google blurb is, "Cowabunga, dude! The Turtles are back. Leonardo, Donatello, Raphael, and Michelangelo are 4 mutant turtles trained in the art of ninjutsu by their sensei master Splinter. The animated series explores their camaraderie as they learn to rely on one another as they unravel the mystery of their existence and train to become the heroes they are destined to be. And they're doing all that while trying to defeat Master Shredder, an old enemy of Splinter who is training a peculiar band of ninjas while hiding out in New York City. While they're in the surface world, the Turtles become involved in a conspiracy involving alien creatures, robotic droids, and missing scientists. And they come face to face with the glowing green substance that originally mutated them."
Yeah. So are you talking about the one from 2003 or the one from 2012?
The one from 2012.
Gotcha.
It's like kind of a blocky looking CGI cartoon.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I said, I think it was on Nickelodeon.
Because I was confused for a sec because I thought you had said 2002, and I was like, well, there's one from 2003, but the one I thought you were talking about was from 2012.
Right. And like, this is what I was Googling before the start of the show. Like, I had to disambiguate this from every other piece of entertainment just titled Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Like, there is no subtitle for this.
Yeah. I love this series. I've seen most of it. I have a poster of it in my room. It's really good.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
nice.
a lot of fun. There you go. Yeah, so pitch number 1. Pokemon, the movie, the first one.
Pokemon, the first movie,
Yeah.
and optionally the CGI remake, ?
Yeah. Pitch number 2 was Mighty Morphin
Power
Power Rangers,
Rangers.
the comics from Boom Studios. Pitch number 3, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the animated cartoon from 2012 that aired on Nickelodeon.
Mhm.
Those are good pitches. Good
Yeah.
stuff. To be honest though, I think we have to go with Pokemon. It's 151. we have to, right?
Right?
It was made for
Yeah.
that. So yeah, I think we should
Yeah, I
watch
figured
Pokemon
since-
the movie. How fun would that be?
Yeah, I figured since episode 150 is just like season 3 of an ongoing show, it's nothing particularly notable. Like, let's make 151 something special, or
Right.
something at least particular, something unique, something that could only be that episode. Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah, I'm excited
Okay.
for that. That'll be fun.
All right.
But yeah,
I'm
next
going to
week-
go ahead and watch the CGI one too,
Cool.
if you are as well.
I probably
okay,
will.
both of
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
I would say, like, watch the regular one if you want to
Yeah.
watch the CGI one. It'll
Yeah.
give you some extra context. We might reference stuff, but we'll be talking about
Yeah,
the
it's-
main one.
It's just supplementary material. Like,
Yeah.
we're not, it's just like a thing we're going to check out as a curiosity. We don't know
Yeah.
how much we're going to talk about it. Yeah.
Cool. But next week, season 3 of Halt and Catch
Mhm.
Fire. We've been covering this on our end of the month specials. This has been a really, really good show. I've been enjoying it a lot. So I'm excited to see where season 3 takes us. They are leaving Texas and headed to California to start a new computer business out there and see how it goes with all of that stuff. So I'm excited to dive into that this next week.
Yeah.
Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities, where me and my brother Jams talk about weird old kids shows we half remember. We just put out an episode on evolution, Alienators, Evolution Continues.
Never heard of that one.
You know the movie Evolution? It stars David Duchovny. Like the logo was a smiley face with 3 eyes.
Oh,
it's about
yeah.
these aliens that crash land to Earth and evolve. This is the Saturday morning cartoon based off that. It's our first episode of specifically a cartoon based on a movie that maybe didn't need a cartoon.
Okay, yeah, I remember that movie because I remember the smiley face with the 3 eyes.
Yes.
And I remember that they made a cartoon, but I've never seen that movie. I've never seen the cartoon, so it was something that just like went out of my head there. But yeah.
That's why it's called Saturday Morning Obscurities.
Good stuff. You guys can find me at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter. And if you guys want to stay up to date with our shows, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. So go like, share, subscribe. You guys know the deal with all of that stuff. If you guys have some kind words to say, please go rate and review us where you get your podcast. That would help us out a ton. But I think that wraps us up for number 149 of the Whatnauts review show. So with that, we will be back next week. Bye.
Bye.